Hello, hello! It's me, Bethany. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the books that I read in January. Now, I did not complete as many books as I thought I was going to complete. I only completed 5 books, but out of those books I had 1 3-star, 2 4-stars, and 2 5-stars, so 5 books total. And I have none in my possession, so I'm not really doing too well with reading what I already own. But 4 were ebooks and 3 were ebooks and 2 were physical copies from the library. So let's get into my reviews. So I'm going to go from least favorite to my favorite book of the month. So my first book that I rated 3 stars is Orange is the New Black by Piper Kerman. This is a memoir of Piper's who spent, I think it was like 15 months maybe, in a federal prison. You guys probably know about the show on Netflix, which is a really big exaggeration about what happened. I gave this book 3 stars, mostly because I really didn't like hearing her experiences, because she was very privileged. I mean, I'm appreciative of her honesty in regards to her privilege, but some of the things they didn't jive with me. Like, oh, I got all 20 some of my visitors approved because of my blue eyes or because of my blonde hair. No, how about it's because of your white skin? Like, that I just didn't like. She kind of admitted her white privilege, but she kind of, brushed against it, or, slightly mentioned it, but without fully admitting it. You know what I mean? That was my book club pick from work. So yeah, it was an okay book. 3 stars isn't bad. I didn't really hate it. I didn't really love it. I just felt meh about it. So that was Orange is the New Black by Piper Kerman. First 4-star that I read was Relish, My Life in the Kitchen by Lucy Nicely. This is a graphic novel depicting Lucy's childhood up to her being in college, I believe, and her life around food, around cooking, baking, that kind of thing. This book did make me hungry, and it did make me laugh in certain points, so I appreciated that. I don't really know why I didn't give it a full 5 stars. It's probably because for me to give a book 5 stars is I have to really be wowed by the end of the book. Now, if I still really enjoyed the book without being like completely, have a feeling at the end of the book like, wow, like, what, I'm so happy I just read that, like, I am so amazed about this book, then I'm going to give it 4 stars. So that's my reasoning there. So again, I really enjoyed this book, but I just wasn't like totally amazed by it. So, but I still recommend it, especially if you enjoy cooking, if you enjoy baking, or if you just like graphic memoirs. I really like the art style in the book. So, and I believe she illustrated and wrote the book all by herself. So yeah, it was a good read. I'm not mad about it. The next 4-star read that I read was Women Talking by Miriam Toews. This book is about a group of Mennonite women who have been attacked by members of their own community. So this is based of something that actually happened in Bolivia, where these women were getting raped in the middle of the night. They were getting, drugged, then assaulted, and they would wake up sore and in pain and wondering what had happened. And then they would go to their leaders about this, and they're like, oh, it's because you're sinful, or it's because you're being punished by God, or it's a demon, or things like that. So luckily in real life, the men did serve jail time. I believe they're still I can't remember when exactly this had happened in real life in Bolivia, but this book is based on those real life events. So so this guy, he grew up in the Amish community, but then his parents left, and so he then learned English, but he still learned, she still knew the language that the women spoke. So the women are trying to decide, stay and do nothing, they're going to stay and fight, or they're just going to leave. So it's they're meeting over I think the book is in the takes over the amount of like 3 days. So yeah, it's basically him taking the minutes of what happens in these meetings. And I'm not going to tell you what happens because that would be very spoilery of me. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Again, I really enjoyed reading the book. It was a very fast read. It's not a very long book at all, but it didn't wow me at the end. Next was my the next was my first 5-star of the whole year, which was Becoming Beatrice by Tammy Charles. Now, I raved about this book on Twitter, Instagram, and I made sure to let the author know that I really, really enjoyed this book. That's how much I really loved it. It's about this girl, this teenager named Beatrice, and she is involved in a gang, and one day her and her brother are attacked by a rival gang, and unfortunately her brother passes away from this. And so it's her kind of having an internal battle with herself, whether to, stay with the gang, but then she doesn't really want to. She wants to go back into dancing, and then there's this guy named Nasser, aka Señor Sabe Todo, Mr. Know-It-All, and it's kind of their meeting and getting to know each other and maybe a romance. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book because it was, in certain points, I wanted to cry. Like, I teared up, almost on the verge of tears. But I'm sure that there's a ton of, teenagers who have been affected by gang violence or something. So I felt that was a very important book in that regard. And plus, just like the characters in the book, they seemed, she really seemed to be really struggling, like having an internal struggle. Like, should I, still like blatantly do bad in school on purpose and just, coast through school, or should I actually try, and should I do better? And yeah, and I think a lot of teenagers can relate to that. So yeah, gave it 5 stars. Was my first 5-star of the whole year. I'm very happy with that. Next 5-star, and my last read of the month, was Blackout, Remembering the Things I Drank to Forget by Sarah Hepola. And this is a memoir all about her relationship with alcohol. And as someone who is a recovering addict, especially with alcohol, I really related to a lot of the things in this book, like her, blacking out all the time, not remembering what she did, when she learned what she did, being ashamed, being humiliated, being so hard on herself. And I just related so much. And I feel like these kinds of stories aren't talked about a lot because drinking is so ingrained in our culture. It's just so common, and a lot of people they do struggle with addiction issues, and they struggle with, you know, things like alcohol or drugs or whatever your addiction might be. You know, there's a lot of things that you can be addicted to. But anyway, back to the subject matter. But yeah, I just felt so seen, and and she talks about her recovery process, about how she would be sober for like a week and then she would go back to drinking. And I've had a similar experience. You know, I would drink heavily for periods of a time, and then I would back off, maybe drink here and there, then lay off alcohol like for a longer period of time, but then I would pick back up and say, oh, I can control it this time, but that's not really the case. Even after I hit rock bottom, I was still drinking. It takes a while before you actually like learn, like, this is not something that you can control. This is not something that you can negotiate with. Like, you have to like completely be cut off. So as someone who's going to be sober for 3 years in August, I just want to say that recovery is possible. Being sober is possible. I really related to that a whole bunch. So those were the 5 books that I read in January. Have you heard or read any of these books? If so, what did you think of them? Does anybody have like similar star rating criteria as me? Like 3 stars being meh, 4 stars being okay, this was a good book, but I wasn't totally amazed, and then like 5 stars being like, wow, whoa. Okay, so we'll talk in the comments. If you're new here, please consider hitting subscribe. And so until next time, have a great day, happy reading, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!